The Truth, the radio program of the Church of God in Panama to minister God's light unto you at this hour. Listen, meditate, and analyze, and reach to a conclusion according to the truth for your soul's well-being. And now, Brother Gary Tomlinson from the Church of God in Turin Street, Don Bosco, Samaria.
Greetings to everyone. We trust that the Lord will minister to you through the truth. Now, as we take a look into society, we will take note that the present situation regarding children and youth is serious, is very, very serious. It has gone beyond control. In a general sense, parents don't have what it takes to solve the situation. Literally speaking, they don't know what to do for an effective upbringing of their children. In the case of those that claim to be Christians, those that go to church, at the beginning everything seems well. Children like the Bible stories, they like to go to church, they like Sunday school, and so on. And even when they're at home, they play church. You see this child standing on this pulpit that he himself has designed, and you see him imitating the preacher. And when you see these things, you are moved to say, hey, they seem to be promising. They seem to be promising. But as time passes, slowly but surely, slowly but surely, the change takes place. And when they reach to a certain point in their lives, in their teens, then the change is being manifested, and then you take note, hey, what happened? You just took note of the change, but it was taking place from before. It was happening from before. And here is the situation again. In this particular case, maybe in your particular case, the situation is there again as a giant saying, send me a man. And it seems as if there is no hope whatsoever. The coming generation, there is a fear on the coming generation. Those that will like to take that stand for marriage, there is a fear, because this has been the trend so far for years. But dear ones, I want you to know, in the midst of it all, I want you to know that there is hope. There is hope in your particular situation. Definitely, things will go worse in a general sense regarding society. Things are not going to get better. But in your particular case, there is hope. And in this spirit, I am moved to share with you that which has served as a divine instrument for effective results in my family atmosphere. That's the reason why we want to look into this under the topic, producing the basic for an effective upbringing of our children. Now, the Bible tells us in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 29, the following. Oh, that there were such an heart in them, that they will fear me and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. I'm going to read it again. Oh, that there were such an heart in them. Now, this is God speaking to the Israelites. Oh, that there were such an heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. Now, as we study this portion, we will take note that this is God's will for the entire humanity. This particular portion, he expressed it to the Israelites. He told this to the Israelites. But fundamentally speaking, this is God's desire for the entire humanity. You see, what God is seeking for is our well-being. That's all he's seeking for. That's just how it was at the beginning, but because of sin, that was lost. And what salvation is all about is the restoration of that relationship of love that existed at the beginning. God is working now through his people to restore humanity, to restore man to that position from which he fell at the beginning. So this begins with that relationship in which love is the key element, in which love is the foundation. This is why we see in the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 37 through 40, the following. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. Love towards God. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. When we see this, we can take note that Jesus is trying to make it easy on us. If you only reach to that point, if you can only love God, and as a consequence or as a product of loving God, you love your neighbor as yourself, and you're fulfilling all the commandments. And of course, we read in the book of 1 John chapter 5 verse 3 the following. For this is the love of God. We are reading the definition of what is the love of God. That we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Keep his commandments. Here we see what real love is in that relationship with the Lord. And within that atmosphere, it is possible, therefore, to keep all his commandments always. Love. So, the way to obey all of God's commandments always is through the development of that relationship with God, in which love is the foundation. Amen. Now, on the other hand, it is still possible, after we have done all we are supposed to do in obedience to the Lord's leading, that our children will choose to go in a different way, because they have a will of their own. It is possible that can happen. This is precisely one of the lessons that we see in the book of Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32, concerning the prodigal son. He had at home, he had all he needed. His father granted to him all that he needed. Yet, a moment came when he told his father, I want to leave. I want to live my own life. I want to go far away where there is no one to tell me what to do, now how to do it. I just want to be on my own. I want to have my own experience. Well, his father granted his petition in spite of all he did. And notice that when Jesus shared this parable, he never blamed the father for the son's attitude. That was of his own will. But afterwards, that same son returned back home. He returned back home. So, dear ones, this portion ought to help us so as not to fall under frustration or self-condemnation. But on the other hand, we also need to be careful in assuming the right attitude. What I'm talking about, okay? It is not a matter of just letting go and saying, well, we did all we could and they have a will of their own, so, well, there's nothing else that we can do. No, we need to be careful. Because we could fall under a condition where we stop doing all the Lord has told us to do on their behalf. We stop pushing because we give in to this thought. So we need to be careful. We need to fight for our children. You need to fight for your children. You need to do all you can. You see, this situation of children departing or going astray, this ought to be like once in a while, but not the usual case. It's not ought to be the usual case. So we need to strive for our children, for them to make it, to produce in this our time, to produce what God is expecting from us. Now, regardless of what the results may be, whether he gets saved or not, we need to produce the basic. We need to produce the basics. And it is not a law. It is not the standard. It is a benefit, a divine benefit. It's a blessing. That's the way we ought to see this. See, sometimes we tell our children, well, you need to do it this way, you need to do this because this is the standard. But we don't take time to explain to them the how things really supposed to be, in order for them to develop the correct understanding, the correct viewing of what this is all about. Well, you need to dress this way because this is the standard, because this is what God established. But you don't explain to them, okay, you need to dress well. It is profitable. It is for your convenience to dress this way. That you develop that sense of respect from others towards you. And things in that line to help them to understand what this is all about. It's a blessing. It's a benefit. Now, we have been talking about producing the basics. Someone may ask, but Gary, what are you talking about when you say producing the basics? I'm talking about those qualities, the development of those qualities in our children as a consequence of our experience of salvation, of our experience in that relationship with God. What kind of children we ought to produce within the atmosphere, the home atmosphere of parents who are saved. That's what I'm talking about. For example, and this is the first one, children who are submissive to the parents. Children who are submissive to their parents. Producing this quality, whether they are saved or not. Our children ought to have this. This ought to be in them. They need to have that spirit of submissiveness. I'm talking about that condition where they continually apply themselves to what has been established at home by the parents. Children submissive, who are submissive to their parents. The following one. Children who respect their parents and superiors. There is too much disrespect in this nowadays. When you see children, the way how they speak to the parents, the way how they answer when they are called, certain attitudes, certain expressions, certain movements, certain actions, disrespect. We need to produce children who respect their parents and superiors. Children who reverence God. Children who reverence God, who are conscious of the fact that God is real and therefore assume the right attitude in his presence. That's right. Children, see, we need to produce this whether they are saved or not. Whether they are saved or not. If you take note in society, there are people concerning this aspect about reverence to God. There are people who are not even saved, and their attitude, for example, in worship is far better than many of those who are already saved in their particular case in their own worship. You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of difficult for me sometimes how to portray certain things, but I'm trusting the Lord is helping me. So if the outsiders can make it, if the outsiders can assume that attitude, you see, the way how we train our children ought to be such that in no aspect, no one from outside could say, well, we are doing better than you in this aspect. We ought to be the best in all aspects. But that's a mentality. That's a mentality that we need to assume as parents. Children who reverence God. Children who dress properly. There's not much to say about this. Children who are ashamed to expose themselves. Children who appreciate family unity. You see, when a child values the family unity, when he appreciates the atmosphere at home, then when that time comes, when they are pushed or they are pulled by the current of this world to go astray, this will work as a strong means to keep them at home, to make them stay. I'm talking about that child that appreciates his relationship with daddy, his relationship with mommy. Well, in spite of corrections and things in that line, he decides to stay because he appreciates the atmosphere at home. But we need to produce such atmosphere. As parents, we need to produce such atmosphere so that when that power from the world to pull them out begins to work, they will stay. They, of their own will decide to stay. But if you produce an atmosphere of law, you have to do this, you cannot do this, then they're going to feel themselves like in a jail. And of course, which will be the tendency? I'm escaping. I got to leave this place. I need freedom. I need freedom. So we need the Lord to help us to produce that type of atmosphere that will make them stay. Children who appreciate family unity. Children with a considerably deep spiritual perception. Children with a considerably deep spiritual perception. This is regarding understanding. Children who understand the word, who understand the concepts that God has established in the Bible. Children that understand what salvation is all about. Children that understand what is the meaning of the carnal nature, what it does, how it operates. Children that can see the church. Children that can see the function, how the church functions. Children that can see God, how is God, how his actions. Children that know God. We cannot just limit ourselves by just telling them the stories of Bible, David and Goliath, and so on. We need to take time. We need to take time and teach them the scriptures to their level of understanding. But of course, we need to take time to do that. We need to spend time with them. We need to be their teachers. God expects us to be their teachers. There is a tendency in parents to leave everything for the Sunday school teacher to do. Your teacher will teach you about that. She will tell you what to do. She will tell you, she will explain to you, or let the ministry explain to the children certain concepts, whatever. But God is expecting you. He's expecting you to do it. So you need to know the scriptures. You need to be clear with the concepts that God has established in the Bible. You need to go to Bible study. You need to study on your own. That energy, you see, this is a reality in our midst. Parents tend to spend more time with their children when it has to do with school, when it has to do with those different subjects, perhaps mathematics. They will stay there and tarry there with the children and help them out until they are able to understand that operation or whatever. They tend to spend more time in these things than what has to do with the spiritual. Of course, this definitely, this is the reason why afterwards we are complaining. "Oh, what's the matter? Why my child is not, uh, why he's not saved? Why he tends more towards his studies, more to the secular things than the spiritual?" Well, we ourselves have prepared the atmosphere for that to take place. But we need to change our mentality. See, there is a mentality, presently speaking, there is a mentality. I want my child to be someone in life, someone great in this life. I want him to have a good education. I want him to have a good job, and so on. But how about I want my child to be someone who is who is really saved, who is spiritually established, serving the Lord in a mighty way. We need to change our mentality. Children with a considerably deep spiritual perception, understanding. Now someone might say, but how am I going to explain these concepts to my child? He's too small to be able to understand it. That's not true. That's not true. If you were to go out and see, in fact, you can see it by yourself. There are many things that that little child understands that he learns at school that has to do with computer and all those highfalutin subjects that he can grasp and retain in his mind. Let me tell you something. If he's able to use a smartphone, if he's able to use a computer, then he have enough brain to understand the scriptures. I'm telling you. I am telling you. You see, we need to change our mentality. In fact, our children know more. Many children know more concerning life than what their parents believe. That's a reality. It's a reality. And many of the things, especially teenagers, they learn it from outside. And the bad part of it is that they learn it the wrong way. They learn it the wrong way. Because parents don't take time to talk to the children. They don't take time to teach their children the things the right way. Children with a considerably deep spiritual perception. And finally, children who are sensitive to the voice of God. Sensitive to the voice of God. With the capacity to perceive God's voice. This is the Lord talking to me. Maybe those that surround me, they are not even taking note of what's happening. But I know, this is the Lord. He's speaking directly to me. You see, the advantage of this particular quality is that if they're not saved, God can still speak to them and get them saved. This is an advantage of the development of this quality. So dear ones, with this, I'm hoping that I have portrayed a general picture regarding producing the basics within our family atmosphere. And we are hoping from now on to get into each of these qualities in a more profound way in order for you to have a greater understanding and to know how to work these things out to achieve the results that we are in need of in our present time. Therefore, we shall continue.
You have heard the truth. Any questions? Please contact us at 507-398-1667. 507-398-1667. Visit our website www.thechurchofgodpanama.com. That is www.thechurchofgodpanama.com. You may also email us at laverdad98@cableonda.net. laverdad98@cableonda.net. Contact us from any part of the world to clear up your doubts for personal counseling, teaching, lectures, seminars, or preaching. We pray the Lord has ministered to your greatest need. Subscribe to our channel, The Truth,